All right, everybody, this is our February research roadmap. Dr. John Ramond and Dr. Emma Scott are joining us with an introduction to QI research. Take it away when you're ready, Dr. Ramond.
All right. Let me see. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. What's up? Hey, Katie.
Hey, Dr. Ramon, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Just here to support.
Yeah, I guess. Oh my gosh, Anna Mae's here. Oh my, this is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just got home. I'm feeding my cat and making a smoothie, but I am here.
Oh, good to see you both. Good to see you. Uh, so for those who I have not met, had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is John Roman. I'm one of the hospitalists here. And I'm here to talk to you about an opportunity coming up this summer. So this is a project that Dr. Scott and Dr. Sims and I kind of put together and made a bunch of it up and seemed to have some good reception. And so we want to try to expand it this year. And I wanted to have this opportunity to talk to you about it. Please let me know if at any point you have any questions whatsoever. I tend to be fairly informal. Katie and Anna Mae can attest to this. And I can, I'm always happy to stop and answer questions. So without further ado, this is QI when the hospital is the patient. And I think that's a good description of what QI is. So first of all, welcome. Thank you all for being here and taking interest. I'm grateful that you took the time out of your day to come listen to this. I think it's pretty cool. So today we're going to talk about, in general, what is quality improvement. I think I had not heard the term quality improvement until after I finished medical school, definitely, a little bit when I was a resident, and then I got kind of thrown into this huge project when I was like a brand new hot off the press attending, and then just pretended like I knew what people were talking about, but really I had no clue, and I just had to kind of figure it out. So I want to talk just very basically about like, what is quality improvement? What does that mean when we talk about that specifically? And then from there, we'll pivot to the Churchill Summer QI experience and talk about the outline of this experience and this course and workshop that we do. We'll talk about the goals of this and also your takeaways. What would you get out of this experience? And then I want to leave time for any questions. Okay, so I remember when I think way back, further every year, hey Emma, further every year, I had this great thought when I came to medical school, and I was like, it's going to be beautiful. I'm going to be this person. I'm going to heal the people of the Commonwealth of Kentucky in this very controlled environment where everything magically works out. I had this kind of timeline. I was like, perfect. Step one, medical school, check. And then residency, and then deliver excellent care. And it was so beautiful. It would just go from point A to point B in my brain. That's how it was all working out. The problem is, medicine, it turns out, is a very complex system. It's crazy. There are all kinds of shareholders and stakeholders and different people affecting different things. And it is massive, massive as a system. This is actually the simplified version. This is probably maybe a little closer to the reality of it, but it just is this rabbit hole. It's just absolutely nuts. And so it turns out that this delivering excellent care that I had in my brain is possible, but to go from point A to point B is much more messy than I anticipated, just because it's such a complex system. So the question is, if this is the reality of point A to point B, then how can we as doctors navigate this? Because ultimately we're here to try to do right by our patients. That is the goal. The most important thing is for us to care about the patients and do right by them. So how do we navigate this? And I say things should be easy. They really should. So many things that intuitively should be so straightforward and easy, turns out in real life, they're not. But it also is true that the easier things are, the better the care is. The easier it is for the right thing to do, the better, the more likely that thing is actually going to happen and the better the care for the patient. So the question then is, if we want to make something better, if we want to make a system better, then where do we start? And it's tempting just to jump to solutions from a system standpoint, right? Why don't we just do this, right? This actually, it turns out, disregards the fact that these problems take place in a very complex system. Throwing solutions out without understanding the roots of the problem is rarely helpful and sometimes actually can make things worse. And I think there's a good analogy to this. If we're thinking from a system standpoint, how do we make care better? Then it's very similar to how I think about being a doctor, right? So let's say we have this gentleman comes in with chest pain, terrible substernal chest pain. He's a smoker. We're worried he's got sugar diabetes. He's got high cholesterol. He's a setup. And here he is coming with acute chest pain. I am worried. The doctor in me is worried that this guy's having a heart attack. He's having an MI, right? But there's really two things that are at play for us to give excellent care. The first question is the med school part, right? And residency part, where I've learned what are evidence-based interventions that are indicated here? What are medicines or interventions that are going to help increase this guy's chance of making it out alive and being able to live his life and be happy, right? So that's one part. But the second part is, even though I might know that these medicines are indicated, the second part is, how well is the system actually delivering the care that we know is needed? I know what the right thing to do is, but how well is the system set up to actually do the right thing? And those can be two entirely different things, right? So what is the appropriate intervention? From a medical school side, right? From a what medicine do you want to order, right? If somebody came in with chest pain, I would never say to a first-year medical student, yeah, just go like try some stuff, see what happens, right? Like, no, of course not. We don't know. Maybe this isn't even a heart attack. Maybe it's a pulmonary embolism. Maybe it's costochondritis. Maybe it's one of 100 other things, right? I'd never just say, yeah, just go and try some stuff and see if it sticks, right? I think if we're thinking about the appropriate intervention, then really first we have to understand the medical problem underlying the chest pain. So this guy comes in, he's got chest pain, right? In order to know what is appropriate to intervene on, what medicines we should use, we need to have a deep understanding of the systems that are at play. And this is exactly what you're in the throes of right now. This is deep dives into anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, immunology, microbiology, genetics, pathology, everything else that I probably forgot about. But all of this stuff that you are deep diving in right now informs your decision about what's the right thing to do, what are the right medicines, okay? Now, from a systems problem, is the patient getting what they need? I order this medicine. Does that medicine appear in front of that patient for them to take? And this is just one example of this. But are they getting the medicine that they should be getting, right? Is this the most evidence-based medicine that they should be getting? These are all interplays of very complex systems to get from my order to the patient getting this intervention, okay? So again, in order to be able to understand the intervention to help the patient from a medical standpoint, you need to understand the systems, right? The root causes. Why is this chest pain happening? The system is the exact same. It's the exact same approach. In order to understand how to improve healthcare itself, you have to understand the processes at play first, and then you can do an intervention. Then you can do an intervention. But first you have to understand the root causes of what's the problem is. This is one of my favorite QI quotes ever. It's from this guy who's pretty smart. He said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions. And that's true. So often it's tempting just to throw things and see if they stick. But if you don't understand what's happening, then you cannot intervene effectively. So the majority of QI is actually understanding problems. So then how do we understand a healthcare problem? And this is where we end up with this thing called DMAIC. And this is the roadmap that we arrive at. This is define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. And this, I don't want to do a deep dive in, but these are the things that we're going to talk about when we get into the meat of this project over the summer. And this was actually developed by people who are not doctors at all. This was developed at Toyota and the auto industry to try to help streamline processes to make things more efficient and make cars better. But it turns out you can copy and paste this process of how to approach a problem and improve healthcare doing the same thing. So when we think about research versus QI, research, because I think this is another thing that can be tricky to understand. So when you have a research project, really you're coming up with a question that you want to answer, that you don't know the answer of. And you're trying to find, the goal is to come up with new knowledge. You have come up with a static protocol, meaning this is the one thing that we're going to do, and we're not going to break protocol. We're going to control for biases, right? We are going to measure this unequivocal outcome, right? This is our outcome. This is our primary outcome. And then we have a p-value to determine is this a statistically significant outcome or difference? And then the power and the scope is to answer this one very specific question, right? So it is to gain new knowledge through this process, which allows you to answer a specific question. Quality improvement is, the goal isn't to figure out something new. The goal is to try to operationalize the best practice. What is the best possible thing that we can do to do right by our patient? And how do we actually make that a reality? How do we make sure we're doing the best for our patients? The protocol changes in QI, because in QI, something else we'll talk about is you spend a lot of time learning about the problem, learning about the processes at play, mapping everything out, thinking deeply about it. Finally, you come up with a solution, and then you track the solution, and then you actually say, is it better, worse, or the same? And then you do something different. If you need to, you add something else. You are continually trying to improve. It's not just like one and done. We're in the Mark Pope era. It's not the Calipari era. So you are trying to continuously improve on your process. So it's this dynamic protocol that's changing as you learn. The confounders are to identify and stabilize variables that are confounding your results. You want to figure out, why is there so much variation in what's happening? Why are there 27 different ways to go about doing something? And let's control for them and then try to make it the one that we want to do. There can be a blend of outcomes. We can have multiple outcomes that we studied. We certainly did last year. There's different types of outcomes that we will talk about in the course. There are ways that you measure, are things getting worse by our intervention? Are they doing better? Is the process actually, are people actually doing what we wanted them to do? Is the overall outcome we wanted to change changing? So there's all kinds of outcomes that we track. Instead of having a p-value and a significant threshold, we actually track data over time. And then we see, is there a trend or a shift? And those have very specific statistical definitions in terms of, does something change in what we're looking at? Does the process change? Does the outcome change in a way that's measurable? And then the power is, and the scope is, to meet the threshold for action or improvement. And I think those are, in a nutshell, the difference between research and quality improvement. Okay, so that was a whole lot about QI and kind of what it is. Next, I want to talk about the Churchill Scholars Summer QI Experience. And this is where there's a lot of different people around the hospital that are doing QI, but to date, it really has not been implemented with students, or it has not been introduced as a concept to students, or they haven't been able to be involved in making healthcare better, systematically making healthcare better. So this is the way that we wanted to do this for you all. The goal is to give students the opportunity to learn QI tools and then develop a real project to directly improve healthcare. So this is not Emma and I standing up in front of a whiteboard saying, here are the 5 points of good QI. No, this is going to be workshop-based. You are going to be doing the things. We're going to give you the tools, and then you're going to be leveraging those tools to actually implement and carry through a project to improve the quality of healthcare for the patients at UK. So this is a very, very generic outline, but in general, we picked the project around May-ish. And then with your input, people that are interested in participating in this, you have a say. We kind of come up with a few options that we think would be doable in the time frame. And then whatever you say, that's what we're going to do. We'll send you some articles, and then we'll meet for the first time at the beginning of June. And then we'll do a series of workshops and projects over the course of June, over about 4 weeks. After that, at the tail end of that, we actually work together to develop an abstract for a regional meeting. And then we submit, and when accepted, present at that regional meeting. And this is where I have to brag on Katie and Anna Mae and our other amazing introductory class. Their poster actually won the research category of the entire regional poster series, of this entire regional conference. Sorry, not this. Which is absolutely incredible. So a full regional poster session, and they won it outright, not among students, among everyone. So hats off to you, well played. So there's a synchronous portion to these 4 weeks in June, and asynchronous portion. The synchronous portion is really the workshops where we all meet as a group. We teach you the tools, we practice using those tools. We learn about this DMAIC roadmap of how to understand and root cause problems. Other QI tools, we practice implementing them, like I said. The asynchronous portion is where you actually round with an adult medicine or pediatric wards team Monday through Friday. Typically each student, assuming we can get about 4 or 5 students per group, we're gonna have 2 groups this year. Each student would round, I think we said about twice a week, ballpark. There are IHI modules for certification, which I'll talk about in a second. And then there's the other asynchronous is to update data sets, run charts, and keep track of all the data that we're collecting. The IHI module, this is the Institute for Healthcare Improvement. This is a national institution, which is a leader in quality improvement across healthcare. And they have an actual certificate that you can get, like a basic certification in quality improvement and patient safety, which is free through UK. It's a 13-course online module learning that you do kind of at your pace. The modules are not that long, and then you put it on your CV when you're applying for residency that, yes, I actually was certified from the IHI on basic QI and patient safety. So what are our expectations? Really, we want you to be engaged. And like, that's what we want. Like, this is the thing. So sorry, Emma, did you have something?
Yes, sorry. On the IHI modules, could you go back 1 slide?
Yes.
I want to highlight, even if you are not part of this program, so this program is for the summer between your M1 and M2 year. So even if you cannot participate in this project, if you're an M2 or an M3 or an M4, this is a great opportunity because it's still free for you to do these online modules, to learn this content. I've had faculty tell me if a student wants to work with me and they've done the certificate, then I put them to the top of the list. So even if you do not do Churchill Fellows, but you have some QI interest, this is a great opportunity for you. And if you email me or Dr. Rahman, we can help you kind of sign in and do those modules and get that certificate. So with or without the summer program, if you're interested, this is an opportunity for you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Emma. Absolutely. Okay, so our expectations, we want you engaged. We want you here, we want you excited to work. So what my expectation actually, I have zero expectation that you know anything about QI. Lord knows I didn't. I actually expect that you have no idea about anything about QI at all. That's my expectation, my baseline expectation, right? There is no prerequisite whatsoever for this course. But the goal is that this is going to be foundational knowledge and skills that you can use for the rest of your career. To maximize your benefit, our expectations that you would be present for 80% of in-person didactics and workshops. We want you to actively participate in discussions, complete rounding and upload data, complete all the IHI modules at your own pace, and look out for each other. we want to recruit people for this program that are really going to have each other's back. That matters to me a lot. And now the question is, what do you get out of it? I'd hate for you to do all this work and not get anything. So these are things. When we asked last year's group, like, what do you feel like was the most helpful for you? What were your takeaways? What did you get out of this? Overwhelmingly, they said, we loved, and please, Katie or Anna Mae, let me know if I'm making this up, but they said, we loved rounding with actual medical teams and seeing actual patients. Like, they actually said, like, lead with that when you're talking to next year's group, because it was so worthwhile and was such a great reminder of what we're working towards while you're stuck in the classroom and, watching this lecture for the 5th time or whatever. So that's something. Certainly skills to make healthcare better, no matter what field you enter. These skills and these tools can be used literally in every profession in medicine, period, hands down, no contest. Certificate from IHI, like we talked about, to put on your CV, which can make you stand out. Experience on how to submit a piece of scholarship, and then also present a piece of scholarship at a poster presentation. Also nice to have on your CV. And the other takeaway is you have the opportunity to tangibly improve the care of patients and to be able to measure that degree of improvement as a summer project. So I think those are the takeaways.
Can I add something?
Please, please, please.
I'm just gonna say it's also super fun, and you get to hang out with some of your peers that you might not have otherwise known, and Dr. Scott and Dr. Ramond, and they're awesome. So that's a great part.
Thank you. I promise we didn't pay her.
They didn't.
Okay, thank you, Anime. And this is our esteemed inaugural class. Anime and Katie, you'll see. This was at the regional poster competition that they won. No big deal. And they did a great job. They knocked out of the ballpark. And you'll see a lot of the tools that we end up using kind of in the background there. And this isn't even everything. This is the pared down version of all the stuff that they learned and worked through. But there's process maps, there's fishbone diagrams, Pareto charts, impact versus effort matrices, various run charts. It's a whole lot of stuff. That's all I got. That's it. Anything else?
Sorry, I've been like walking to my car, but I second everything Anna Mae said. It's a very awesome experience.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad, Katie.
Can I hand the mic, Katie, I know you're walking, so I might hand the mic over to Anna Mae, but Anna Mae, do you mind just to talk to the students about what your project was and what you guys did in your project? Because I think that might be nice for them to get a tangible example.
Yeah, for sure. I know some ICM groups got a video and we've been visiting them this week too, but I'll go over it quickly. So we looked at nurse participation on rounds. We decided that was something we were interested in. And we did a lot of things. First, we just took preliminary data, but on rounds, we would just document how many times a nurse was invited on rounds and how many times they participated on rounds. We found it was not that much. I think the nurse invitation before our interventions was 3%, and the nurse participation before our intervention was 21%. So then we created 2 interventions that we implemented at different time points, and by the end, both interventions were going on. So the first one was just having a member of the care team try to find the nurse and just ask if they want to join, and just be like, any updates, do you want to join? That simple. And the second one was a cute little neon sticker. You can see it on Logan there on the that side, the orange sticker. We just wrote "Got Nurse," and everyone would put it on their rounding sheet at the beginning of the day, just as a little visual reminder. We also took surveys. We all interviewed nurses and residents about their opinions about involving nurses on rounds, and found that a lot of nurses didn't even really know when rounds were or know what rounds kind of meant, and they were really enthusiastic about being incorporated and being invited. And residents were a little hesitant because they were concerned about the time, but I'll get into that. So we actually saw that nurse invitation went up from 3% to 77% in our month-long project, and nurse presence on rounds went from 21% to 67%, and rounding time actually went down. So lots of good results.
Okay, perfect. We appreciate you kind of doing the rundown there. I knew you guys know it like the back of your hand. You know, she's got all those numbers like ready. They
Yeah.
present their posters, so they're deeply ingrained. And so they were able to walk through that quality improvement process, which Dr. Ramond went through that explanation very well. I'm going to take this first question in the chat, Dr. Ramond, which is when do applications for Churchill scholars come out? And so like we said, this is going to be between your M1 year and your M2 year. So if you're not an M1 and you want to get involved in QI, please like hit some questions in the chat and we can discuss that too. For the M1s, we're looking at applications. They will come through Dr. Sims and it will be late March, early April. So keep an eye out. We want you guys to be able to commit those 4 weeks in June to the project. We know a lot of summer plans are still moving and shaking, but we hope to get those applications out by the end of March, early April. So keep a lookout for that. It'll be Churchill Scholars for this summer. So it'll be a 4-week June. And then will the involvement in this conflict significantly, if at all, with PSMRF? So it depends what your PSMRF obligations are. So right now for our project, you're needing a couple hours Monday afternoons and Wednesday or Thursday afternoons just for the didactic teaching. So you have to be able to block off those 4 hours to participate with the group teaching that we're doing. And then you need to be able to round, which is from 8 a.m. to noon, a couple of days a week to do this project. So last year, everybody, I don't believe anybody was kind of doing 2 things at once because it is a lot of commitment in June. Anime?
I wasn't, but Logan did do PSMRF at the same time. So you could definitely reach out to him. And I think whenever we spoke about it, he said it was no big deal because his research was at the hospital. So like it just had him already there, from my understanding. But he did do PSMRF at the same time.
Perfect. So we kind of have these time blocks. And so as long as you can make those time blocks work with your summer, we would love to work with you. Good question.
And I think this is also the nice thing about having a group of 5 people that are looking out for each other, because invariably there's going to be conflicts or people will be out of town for a little bit. And it's nice just to be able to work out for the students to work out amongst themselves who's going to be rounding on which days. And really, we left that up to the students. I don't think we ever said like, you need to round this day. And it worked out perfectly. What else? We're an open book.
They also bring you candy. So if you weren't quite convinced yet, there might be snacks.
Dr. Ramond,
It's not completely altruistic. Like I
gonna
also get
pause
to eat the candy.
I'll pause the recording in case anyone has a question they don't want preserved for posterity. Last comment just for the recording, if you're a student from a regional campus, I believe one of our participants was from a regional campus. If you happen to have a housing opportunity just for June in Lexington, you're welcome to participate. I'm going to stop here and then any further questions will be forgotten after this meeting.